Welcome to Interface. This course will teach you how to provide intensive family support. Interface is a national provider of specialist support, training, information and resources. Click Next or one of the section headings. Introduction. The target learners for this course are practitioners looking to continually improve practice in working with complex families, experienced workers now being asked to provide intensive whole family support, and newly created and developing teams. Intensive family support interventions were set up to work with some of the most complex and challenging families. They take a whole family, intensive and persistent approach. Families are supported in a coordinated and a multi-agency way. During this session, we will look in detail at the intensive intervention model. Here are the key learning outcomes for this module. Background. The history of family intervention. On the next slide, click on the dates on the timeline to see further details of the history of intensive family support. In 1910, Octavia Hill, the philanthropist housing provider, encouraged her tenants to live in a good way and behave in a tenant-like manner. In the 1940s, there was the Brentwood Recuperative Centre for Mothers and Children, where families underwent an intensive programme of practical instruction, social and cultural activities, and personal therapy to transform their lives. In 2004, the Social Exclusion Unit study showed 2%, or 140,000 families, with children experiencing 5 or more disadvantages from the list below. This showed how multiple disadvantage can have a long shadow on outcomes for children. In 2007, the Department of Children, Schools and Families was set up. Part of that was the Youth Task Force. The policy context at the time was around Every Child Matters, Aiming High, a 10-year strategy, the Children's Plan, rollout of extended schools, neighbourhood policing, antisocial behaviour, and the initial setting up of family intervention projects focusing on antisocial behaviour. £218 million was invested in various programmes, including challenge and support projects, intensive intervention projects, and the continuation of funding for family intervention projects, respect parenting practitioners, and expansion of the Parenting Early Intervention programme. The policy agenda in 2007-8. In 2009, the government provided a ring-fenced grant for all authorities to implement Think Family reforms, offer parenting early intervention programmes, continue to fund parenting experts and practitioners, and set up youth crime family intervention projects. By August 2009, family intervention projects were on the increase, with a new focus area of child poverty added. It was acknowledged that families were also a source of risk, where parents were involved in drug or alcohol misuse, domestic violence, or offending. A series of Think Family reforms were introduced to make changes to local authority services and systems. It was found that multiple funding and accountability had resulted in ineffective and expensive provision. The cost of not intervening early became apparent. Embedding Think Family reforms became the next phase of the Every Child Matters reform. In September 2009, the Prime Minister announced additional funding for the further expansion of family intervention projects. Guidance was also produced to support agencies working together closely. Specific examples include mental health services, drug and alcohol treatment services, and in the management of offenders. In 2010, the new coalition government set about an ambition to turn around the lives of every troubled family in the country. They started with community budgets focusing on family intervention to facilitate breaking down barriers to support families. They invested in current family intervention provision through an early intervention grant and trialled new ways of working for exemplar projects and to support dissemination. In December 2010, community budgets were announced in 16 areas focused on family intervention. A further phase of community budget areas was announced, and family policy moved from the Department for Education to the Department of Communities and Local Government. The Troubled Families Unit was set up in December 2011. 448 million was provided to fund coordinators and to offer a payment by results framework for turning around troubled families. In February 2012, a payment by results financial framework was announced. In June 2013, a further £200 million worth of funding was announced to support a further 400,000 families. This approach to intensive family work has proved to be effective in tackling a number of problems and issues. You can click on the links to see reports on good practice and evidence of the effectiveness of working intensively with families. The Intensive Intervention Model. Roll over the boxes for further information on each stage. This is an introduction only. We will go over each stage in detail in a moment. We will now take you through each stage of the model, from referral to closure. Referral. Families referred for intensive family support can be referred from a range of agencies and for a number of reasons. Case allocation. The allocation of each case requires a flexible approach. Click on the link to see an example of a referral form. The referral meeting. Building rapport with the family. This is the worker's first opportunity to build rapport with the family and gain their trust, at the same time as being clear about the responsibilities and limitations of their role. Click on the link to see an example of how services will gather and share information. Once the family has agreed to engage with the service, the worker then arranges a multi-agency referral meeting. It is important to discuss the role of other agencies and the need for information sharing. Remember to ask the family to agree to share information and ask them to sign a consent form for this. A risk assessment must also be carried out on the family. Click on the links below to see an example consent form for sharing information and an example of a risk assessment. It is the role of the intensive intervention worker to arrange a multi-agency referral meeting with the family. The family's issues and support needs will be discussed in detail, and the process of completing a whole family assessment will be started. Any professional currently working with the family would be invited to this meeting. Whole family assessment. A detailed assessment must be completed for the whole family. This means completing an individual assessment for each member and then a combined assessment for the whole family. Click on the links to see a whole family assessment and other assessment tools that could be used with the family. Assessment review meeting and contract setting. Once the whole family assessment has been completed, the worker will have a clearer understanding of the family's issues and their strengths. Click on the link to see an example of a blank support plan. This page details the key characteristics of a support plan or behaviour contract. Click on the link to open an example of a family support plan. What do you think is wrong with it? What would you change? You might find it useful to write your answers on paper or use the note on the screen. The attached plan is a better example. Have a go at creating a support plan for this example family. What are contract and support plans for? What are the key features of a good contract? Multi-agency review meetings. It is important that regular review meetings are held every 6 to 8 weeks. These meetings are attended by the family and all identified agencies. They provide an opportunity to review the support plan, monitor progress, and revise the plan. Click on the link to see an example of a contract review. Exit strategies and closure. During each review, it is important for the intensive intervention worker to consider progress and when the family might be ready to exit the programme of support. Exit should be planned with the family and be graduated, slowly reducing contact with the worker, planned with other agencies, considering introduction and access to universal services, and timely, ensuring that the family are ready to progress with less intensive support. Have a go at this exercise. The intensive intervention worker. We are now going to look in more detail at the role of the intensive intervention worker, acting as the first point of contact for the family, building a relationship with each family member, and coordinating the multi-agency team around the family. The worker will support and challenge the family to reach their goals. They will advocate for the family with other agencies, regularly review progress and address barriers, support the family to use other services, and plan an exit with the family. This page outlines the key features of an intensive intervention service. Persistent and assertive approaches. Why do we need to use persistent and assertive approaches?
Look, Mel, every time I've come round you've been talking about giving up smoking.
It's very hard, you know. I've been trying to.
Yeah, I know it's hard. But in the time I've known you, I've been really impressed with the effort you've been putting in to try and make changes and make things better for yourself and your family. You do show a lot of guts and determination when you want to. You love your kids, don't you?
Of course I love my kids. I'd do anything for my kids.
I know you would, and you've shown that to me already. But Mel, tell me, how do you think the smoking's impacting on them? You know, don't you? But you don't want to say. Mel, it's affecting their health right now, and there's more chance of them smoking when they're older. You smoke, what, 20 a day, is that right? That's what That's 40 quid a week on fags. But you were saying earlier you can't afford swimming lessons for Jessie.
I've never thought of this like that. Listen, it's very hard though to give up.
I know it's hard, but there's a lot of support out there right now. You just need to take it one step at a time. What's the one thing you could do now?
Well, I guess I could call my GP, or I know they've got clinics. I could get myself a patch.
Well, there you are then. There's the phone. Get the appointment.
Sanctions and rewards. This page contains examples of sanctions and enforcements that might be used to encourage families. Finding ways to reward a family for positive changes in behaviour are a good motivational tool. Now reflect on what you've learnt. The following slides contain 10 multiple-choice questions. In the referral to closure process, what takes place after the initial referral meeting? On average, how long does it take to complete a whole family assessment? A whole family assessment should be completed with the multi-agency review meetings should always include. Which of these are key features of an intensive intervention service? To share information about a family with other agencies, the worker must. A support plan or contract should contain. A strengths-based approach means using sanctions and rewards are an effective way of. When should you start thinking about an exit plan? Your quiz results are detailed below. Now you have finished this course, you should understand the key features of intensive family support, understand the 8 stages of the family intervention model, have a thorough understanding of effective referral, engagement, assessment, contracts and reviews, understand why the intensive family approach works, understand the role of an intensive intervention worker, and understand how to use a range of sanctions and rewards. Thank you for taking our course. For further information about other courses that we offer or additional support that we can provide, please see our website.